good. Yeah.
You know, I'm really excited about this new half house we're going to be doing over here.
I am too. You know what? It's going to be a lot of work, but I think it's going to be worth it for our audience to be able to get a brand new half a house in our studio. Izzy, what are you doing?
Well, funny you should ask, because last time you found it so funny that I didn't know what planting trim was.
That was fun.
It was good.
Well, but
Get into the crowd.
I was not going to get caught in the cold this time, so for doors, I'm studying up on terminology. And how about I'll quiz you this time, huh?
Okay.
How about name something that has to do with a door that is found in nature?
You want this one?
Got it.
Okay.
You're talking about a leaf or leaves. That's a door that is either active or inactive. Could be a hinge door, could be a slider, but each one of those are called a leaf. I'll one up you. On a hinge, for instance, same thing. When they're active ones, there's two of them. That's called leaves or a leaf. Each one of those that operate are called leaves.
You're correct. Okay, how about something, though, that sounds like a bird?
You want me to take this one?
Got it.
Are you talking about a wing? Because you have your panels
Same.
here, that would be a wing. And then when you have two panels, you'd have your two wings that would go through that. And I bet you didn't know this. Those revolving doors, those have 4 wings.
4 wings, sure. You know, I think he gets caught in that.
That's good. I like
Izzy,
that.
we're trying to remodel and you're reading a book. Come on.
Well, I'm just brushing up on my terminology. You know, you guys made fun of me so much last time. I'm trying to make sure it doesn't happen again. How about I'll quiz you?
Okay.
Do you know what parts of a door actually correlate with parts of a body?
With a body, sure. We have the head casing,
Yes.
the leg casing,
Yes.
and then right hand and left hand. So when you stand in front of a door and you've got your hinge, you have your right swing and left swing. So right hand and left hand.
Wait, I know one that you might not know. Where would you find a knuckle
A
on
knuckle?
a door?
Of course. The hinge. It's just like a knuckle. It moves back and forth. Okay, good luck, Izzy.
Well, everyone doesn't know this stuff, do they?
You got what you need for this segment?
I do, Kayla. I've got all my shims right here.
Okay, perfect. Izzy, what are you up to?
Tyler, you're new with us here, so I'll just tell you might not know, but I'm kind of the master of terminology amongst our group.
Okay.
So I've got a quiz for you. What does style have to do with what we're talking about today, being doors?
All right, Izzy. Well, let me see if I can answer this. So when it comes to this door right here, this door has all kinds of style. Now with these vertical members, these are actually on this side of the door called the hinge style of the door. And this vertical member right here on the locking mechanism is actually the lock style. Now this horizontal member right here is the rail of the door itself. So hopefully I passed your test.
You did, with flying colors. But maybe one day you'll have as much style as I do.
Izzy, I think you're spelling that wrong. You're talking about style S-T-Y-L-E, not S-T-I-L-E. I mean, come on, like.
It's kind of embarrassing.
I know.
Welcome to Between the Studs. We are Granite Ridge Builders, custom builders serving northern Indiana, northwest Ohio, and also parts of southern Michigan. We have been building custom homes for almost 2 decades, and we're really passionate about what we do. So join us today as we explore the processes, the trends, and also tips that characterize today's new home. Thanks for watching.
Elizabeth, who would have thought that in today's show, we're going to be able to spend an entire 30 minutes just talking about interior doors?
Well, I'm really excited because it's really an underappreciated item that goes into a home, but it can really change the whole style of your house.
It absolutely does.
Hey, I've got a trivia question for everybody.
Okay.
How many doors, we're talking about interior doors now, would be in a typical new home today?
12, 17.
You're not even close. There could be over 100 doors in a house because you forgot such things as the cabinet doors.
Oh, all the ones. Okay, let's name some of those doors that we might be talking about today, interior-wise.
I'm a big fan of the pocket doors and also the French doors.
How about the pantry door, where we hide all the food?
Right. I'm thinking about closet doors where we hide all the storage and the junk stuff.
Speaking of hiding, Lonnie, I think my favorite is the jib door, also called the hidden door. We built one of those in the past.
Okay, what about shower doors? There's at least 2 of those.
Lots of doors.
Dutch door is another one, the one that's kind of a half door. Think of Mr. Ed. They're great for kids, pets, help keep people in a certain area.
Well, I love the barn door, and it's really popular right now and very versatile. You can use it in a lot of different areas.
What about all the different panels of doors that have to do with the style and period of the home? You have 1 panel, 6 panel, all of those to talk about.
Well, I think this is going to be an amazing show. I think that everybody should stay with us. We have so many doors to talk about. You're going to be shocked at what we're going to do today. All right, guys, let's pick our doors that we're going to talk about.
Mr. Ed. I do. Mr. Ed was such a
It was a great door. It's such a fun thing.
Well, talking about interior doors today, Lonnie, I think it's important that we should probably start with the definition of what is an interior door.
Yeah, just the basic definition would be a door is a barrier. It could be metal, wood, or even glass that acts as kind of a control as you go in and out of a building or from one room to another or even a cabinet. It can also protect us from the elements or a predator. We think about our inclement weather. We need a door, at least a door, on every house we build.
So there are a lot of different types of doors that people need to take into consideration and understand all the different terms that go with that.
Right. Probably a basic door that we all are familiar with is the bypass door. And when you think about a typical closet, like a 5 or 6 foot wide closet, a lot of times you find those sliders. Now we're moving away from those, but everybody remembers the slider door, the bypass door.
What about one of my favorites, a jib door or a hidden door? Something that people probably don't think about too much, but they love to see and really experience in a certain situation.
Another very popular door is called the French door, and we actually have to give the French credit for that. It goes back to the Renaissance days. The French were very interested in symmetry and light and proportion, and so they came up with this double door type thing that when you opened it up, it gave the light an opportunity to come into the room. It went from France over to Italy, and then Italy shared it with the rest of the world, the French door.
What about a bifold door? So we don't see these quite as often anymore, but very helpful when you have a closet and a really small room. So those doors, there's almost 2 of them together on a center hinge that come together that fold in.
There's also a pocket door. It's kind of popular these days. And a pocket door recesses back into a wall. It gives you a little more entrance space. It gets that door out of the way, and it's a popular door on like closets or bathrooms or into a utility room or in a tight hallway, the actual pocket door.
I love pivot doors or chef hinge door, something you see on pantries, and you're used to them probably in restaurants, but we're putting them in homes now. Like I said, especially in a pantry when you're coming in and out of that door a lot, it's a pivot, so it just rotates on a top and bottom hinge.
And then there's also the hinge door. We're familiar with that door also. It typically hangs on 2 or 3 hinges or even 4 based on the length of the door, the width of the door, and the actual weight of the door.
Something that people probably don't think about is an accordion door. You see these on appliance garages where they fold up a little bit and have all those little slats going up. You can see those in houses.
Lots and lots of doors, lots and lots of things to consider. When we sit down with a customer, one of the things we're going to talk about are your doors in your new custom home.
So Luke, today we're going to talk about interior doors, and the first component we're going to talk about is split jambs.
Yeah, the jamb is essentially the part that the door mounts to. Now, we got a lot of different parts and pieces that come to a jamb, and first, before we get to the jamb, let's talk about where the jamb actually sets to, which is called the buck, and that's the framing members.
Correct. The buck is really just the rough opening of the door frame itself.
Yeah, then they send out the jamb, which is what we're holding here, and there's a couple parts and pieces to that. We actually have the head part of the jamb, then we have the leg part of the jamb, and there's a few other parts that have attached to this. So right here you can see it goes all the way around the door opening. That's the stop, and essentially all that does is it stops the door from swinging, and that's the center point of the jamb. Then on these split jambs, the casing actually comes mounted to both sides of it.
And that is actually a nice feature because when we have that casing mounted to the side of that, you can get a tight miter, which just helps with the overall finish of the door itself.
Yeah, so we mentioned split jamb. There's another option that's a good way to set doors as well, and that's a solid jamb. Now we've chosen to use the split jamb, which simply means that this jamb gets pulled apart and splits into 2. So we're going to set this back side apart. And then what's left is the part that the actual door mounts to. So you can see the casing is still here, and imagine there's a door here. This saves us a lot of time. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes to set each of these doors by our seasoned trimmers. If this was a solid jamb, that could be at least double, if not a little bit more than that. Now there's about 18 doors per house, so that's about 3 hours it takes to set doors. That could be 6 or 8 hours if we did the solid jambs, because they have to go back, cut the casing, and it's a little bit more labor intensive doing the solid jambs.
You're right, Luke. And one of the biggest advantages of doing it this way is it allows the trimmer to make sure that it's plumb, allows them to get these shims in behind the door jamb itself. Now, speaking of these shims, I think we have to redo this half a house. I think we're going to have to get started on a few openings here.
Yeah, but before we do that, let's go over why those shims are so crucial.
Sure.
So we mentioned that this goes into a buck, so there's a few key parts. We got to make sure that all 4 corners of this door are square. So we make sure that this is square, that's square, and then the bottom 2 corners are square. Then they make sure it's level, and then they look at their reveals, which a reveal means the part where the door butts up to every one of these pieces of jamb, and make sure that those are all running perfectly parallel. Once they feel that they got those three components together, that's when the shims come into play. Now that's the part where you can really mess up a door, and if you get those shims too tight and you start bulging some of this, it's gonna rub. If you get it too loose, that door's gonna let in a little bit too much light, or it'll have a tendency to start sagging over time. So those shims are important, and they actually put them in 6 different locations. They put them right above each of the hinges, and then they do the same thing mirrored on the other side. So that's very, very key, and that's how you can tell a good trimmer from a bad trimmer, is making sure that they're using those shims and using them effectively. So let's get started on the demolition. That's the funnest part.
Sounds good. You want to grab these shims?
Yep, got it.
I'll grab the other piece of the split jamb.
What you doing there, Tony?
I am cleaning the window pane in this here door.
Well, did you know that that's actually called a French door?
Yes, I did, and this is a segment that we're going to be talking all about glass indoors, and it's very popular in the French doors.
French doors are wonderful. They started off in the early 1600s. At that time, it was a pane of glass with multiple little glass pieces in it, and it was a window more so to just let light in, but they liked the idea so much they expanded it to a full door, and that's when they came up with the term French door.
And now with the glass doors going on, they're using them as accent pieces in a lot of different rooms to really show them off, but also it is to let all that natural light come in. So if you have an office space with some windows in it and you have these big glass doors there, it's going to just bring more natural light into your room.
So we've got more than one type of French door, though. What are the ones we even have behind us here?
You know, right now with what's behind us, we have a beveled glass to it, and we also have one with the different wood frames in here. As you can see, this is just one piece of glass. It has some etching in there to show it, where this is going to be showing almost 15 pieces of glass inside this door.
I like the newest technology where you can take a French door, you can add an electric current to it, and go from clear to obscured. It's one of the neatest technology ideas, and it, of course, can be used with this French door option.
There are so many different rooms that they're using a lot of these French doors in. We're seeing them in offices. We're seeing them in different dining room areas. We're seeing them from the master bedroom into the master bath, where they're really trying to get all that natural light into the rooms. There's so many different areas that you can use these glass doors as accent pieces in your home.
And the one thing you won't want to forget is how much cleaning do you actually want to do? Because we have 2 sides to clean. Here with this 15 panel, you've actually got 30 pieces of glass that you're going to clean. So I guess I'll let you finish that. And
can we just never tell my wife that I'm cleaning these panels and everything?
Coffee, please.
Now your interior door selections really set the tone for your home and what style you're doing. We're so lucky because there's literally hundreds of styles of doors to choose from, and here at Granite Ridge we have so many that are already standard.
There are a lot that are standard, and we're going to take a look first at the painted doors and what is standard with those. So what a lot of times people will automatically assume or go to is the typical traditional 6-panel door here. And when we're talking about the panel style, we're looking at what the design is in the middle. So right here in the 6-panel door, this is considered the panel. And there are a lot of different options. So like I said, we're starting with the 6-panel, which is more traditional, and they say that the more panels there are, the more traditional the look. But I'm going to make a case that soon now, these 5-panel doors, which is almost just as many, have more of a transitional to modern look to them.
They do. Now some other popular doors I know are the 2-panel doors. We're doing a lot of those, whether it be a beadboard look or a smooth look.
You can do arch tops to those. You could do a lot of different things with 2 panels, like Elizabeth said, are very popular. But I'm really leaning towards this modern look and more of a recessed panel. So the traditional 6-panel has a raised, and the one over here, this Craftsman door style, is a 3-panel recess, which does change the look overall quite a bit. And you can even do a 1-panel and a lot more modern, depending on the style.
Now, Kayla, I know that, as you mentioned, the style of the door can make a difference too in the look.
Yes, so the style and the sticking here, you can do ovalo, you can do OG edges. Again, traditional, you're going to have a little bit more to play with the sticking around the middle, and a modern look, you're really not going to have much at all. And this one here is considered more of a bevel. So there are a lot of different options when we're talking about the door panels, but I think color is important too.
It is important. We're doing some bright colors, so you may want to accent a pantry or do something in a kid's bedroom. So we've done orange, we've done blues, we're even doing some black doors.
And I'm telling you, stained is coming back, and with stained you have even more panel options. The sky's the limit. You could even design your own.
Tyler.
Ready, Izzy?
Hey.
I got our board on hinges right now. So today's segment we're going to be talking about hinges, which is easily one of the most important parts of a door.
The history behind the hinge can be traced way back to the medieval times when it would be used for drawbridges and things like that. And a hinge is defined as two big objects with something rotating in between it to help give some movement. So the applications were as early as medieval, and now in modern times we use it even for foundational issues. If we've got two areas that we know might do some settling and shifting, we can actually put a hinge in between it to help make sure that there's not as much movement.
That's right, Izzy. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the components of a hinge.
Yep.
So you've got one right here, and like you were saying, these hinges come in a variety of different styles, different colors, as you can see on this board. We've got dovetail hinges, we've got butterfly hinges, but one of the most common hinges that we use in most of the homes that we build is a loose pin hinge, as you can see right here. And we were discussing earlier, there could be upwards of 100 to 150 doors in a home. So really, when you think about that, that's close to 300 hinges. So if you look more closely at this hinge right here, you see a couple different pieces. This piece that I'm rotating back and forth is actually what's called a leaf. And what this leaf sits in is a cutout called a gain. So we mortise this out, and that comes on the split jamb that gets sent out to the job site, and we insert that hinge right there. And what this hinge rotates on is actually called a knuckle. So just like with your hand, when you open your fingers back and forth, that pivots on your knuckle. So easily something to be overlooked, but one of the most important pieces to really open up your cabinets, your doors, your garage doors. They're everywhere.
With our cabinetry, we might use a piano hinge from time to time as well. And a piano hinge is identified as something that would go a longer joint like this, as opposed to a small one or a door you might see three. A piano hinge will go all the way across that surface. So hinges are a huge part of doors, from color to different types. There's so much to know, and it really does make a huge difference in the way your door works. Tyler, we have 3 hinges here. Do you ever do 2 hinges?
Not normally. Typically, we always recommend using 3 hinges. It gives it more support when you're going to close that door.
Tyler, today we're talking all about doors, and I don't think a lot of people know all the different parts and pieces and components that go into making a door what it is.
I think you're right, JR.
Yeah, let's talk about, starting with maybe the horizontal components, some of these things that make up a door. Let's start at the top and work our way down.
Absolutely. So if you look at a door, like you said, there's so many different components that make up a door. You've got vertical components, horizontal components. What we're going to start off with talking about are the rails. So you have a variety of different rails that go into different styles of doors. You've got your top rail, you've got your cross rail, your lock rail, and then your bottom rail. And then after we talk about the horizontal components, you've got your vertical components of the door, which we talked about earlier in regards to style. So you've got hinge style, you've got your lock style.
So Tyler, now that we're talking about the vertical components, you've hit the styles that are on basically the outside of the door, but we've got some vertical pieces running on the inside, and those are called mullions. So in this case, we've got a first, a second, and a third mullion on this 6-panel door. A lot of people may have heard that term mullions when we talk about windows, when we mull a few together. That's and right. It's the same application here on this door.
Then you've got the different panels on a door. That's one of my favorite parts, because panels can come in a variety of different styles, different sizes. Obviously with this door here, this is a 6-panel door. It really gives it a nice look with the more panels you have and how they're arranged by the size.
Yeah, not to mention you can do some different styles in terms of raised panels, maybe recessed. I think the next thing to talk about, and probably my favorite part, is the way that we're going to attach these panels to the rest of the door. And we do that with a term called sticking. That term has actually stuck with me throughout the show as we've done it today. The sticking is really important. You can do a lot of different varieties. You can have some different shapes. You can do an OG type of sticking, which is more of a gentle S-curve. You could do an ovalo, which is more of just like a quarter round that we're used to seeing, or a beveled, or even a flat. And that sticking really has a drastic impact on the style of that door and really fitting in with the other themes inside of your home.
Absolutely, and I think the designers do a great part of talking with different clients, helping them pick out those different styles or doors to help them fit the overall look of their home.
All right, I think we got a couple more doors to put back together.
I think so
finish
too.
These up here.
Yeah.
probably one of the more recognizable doors is the 6-panel door. This dates back to the 1700s.
Yeah, and there's some really interesting history about that 6-panel door. That's typically what you hear the term used around here, but it's often called a cross and Bible door, sometimes a Christian door. It's really easy to see this top piece here. You see the cross at the top, and down at the bottom it opens up to the Bible. So it's a real easy depiction, that cross and Bible door. A lot of people would use that door to acknowledge their spirituality.
And it's a very traditional door because it does have 6 panels. Usually the more panels, the more traditional the style is. Another door that was used a lot is a witch door. Now what this is it had the same portion up here, so it looked like a cross, but the bottom had an X. And this was a witch door. They thought that this would help keep the evil spirits out. So if you drive down some historical areas in Fort Wayne, you'll probably see these doors, and they're witch doors. So I don't know if the evil spirits stay out, but that's what they thought.
I think Lonnie said it's working for his, so I think we'll stick with it.
Right.
Another early door in colonial times was the board and batten door. So you'd see pieces of wood fixed together in a vertical alignment, and then a couple pieces of boards holding those together. You see that a lot in times, and now we're often taking that style and introducing it into barn doors nowadays.
We are. It's a nice look, a little bit different. Now another door that we do a lot of is more of a craftsman flare door. These get a little simpler. They may have 3 panels, they may have 2 panels, and we're even getting into more modern doors where they're a flush or just a single panel.
Yeah, a lot of times in that craftsman style, when you talk about that sticking, it's more of a flat or a beveled edge sticking.
And one of my favorite doors that we don't see a lot of was back in the colonial days or early colonial days is the Dutch door. So it's one door, but it's almost cut in half, so you could open the top. It's a great application if you have small kids or pets because you can have the bottom portion closed and open the top and still be able to see through.
Yeah, Elizabeth, I think in studying doors, it's amazing to see how the doors are tied to a certain period in our history and how we're reintroducing those today at Granite Ridge Builders.
Well, probably one of the most popular doors we do right now is a barn door. So whether you take a custom door like we have behind us and put it on a track, or take the other doors in your home, you know, whether you're doing a 6-panel, a 2-panel, and putting it on the track, it's really popular. It's a great option when it comes to a pantry, a laundry room, those areas where you're opening and closing the door a lot and want something special.
You know, when we're talking about trend doors, I think we really need to talk about how stain trim and doors are coming back. You're going to be seeing a gray stain doors all over the place now as opposed to the white. You'll still have a lot of that, but gray is really coming on.
And there's something else that's changing when it comes to painted doors.
Absolutely. So what you're also going to see with painted doors is maybe a lower sheen. So we've always talked about how everybody likes that real gloss sort of a finish. With painted and even stained doors, you're going to be getting a little bit more of a matte finish, taking it down a notch and going for that real more cozy rustic look. So whether you're talking barn doors, stained doors, or painted, there's going to be a lot of options for you coming up in the next 2019 trends.
All right, Lonnie, today we're going to talk about some of the internal components that make up some of our more popular door styles.
Today we're staining about 20% of the doors we install, which means we're actually painting 80%.
That's true.
And the two most popular options would be these panel doors like we see here, a hollow core door and a solid core door. Let's talk about the hollow core door.
All right, so if you look at this door right here, Lonnie, you know, the internal components of this, you have a styrofoam interior which gives this door more rigidity, but it also helps cut down on cost. It's not as heavy or as solid as a solid core door that you're holding there, but it's still just as effective.
Yeah, once you get this door installed, it holds up very, very well. One of the advantages of this door would be cost. It's about $50 per door less compared to the solid core door, and this is what we're talking about here. This is a particle board in between the two skins. And again, for $50, you can move to this door, which maybe gives you a little more soundproof ability in a room if you're looking for quiet.
Sure.
And again, it stains up or paints up about the same as both doors are both about 1 inch thick, and very, very popular options today.
You're right, Lonnie. In terms of finish, it's very hard to tell the difference between these two doors unless you're going to pick them up.
Right.
I mean, obviously,
there is a difference.
One's a little bit more heavy than the other, but it's very hard to tell when you're at a house until you go to really open them up and you start feeling some of that weight that comes with the door itself.
Right. Let's move to the stain products.
All right, Lonnie, let's talk about stain doors. We're going to talk about some of our more popular styles.
This is a poplar door. This is a pine door. One of the big differences is this panel is an inch thick. The pine is a half inch, and the stiles and the rail on the poplar are 1.25 inches.
Now, next what we're going to talk about is the difference between solid and veneering of the finish of a poplar door. So what I have here is a poplar panel, and it's showing the solid nature of the wood. You can see that in the grains here. Show us a little bit what you have too, Lonnie.
Some would call this a solid door, Tyler, but actually it's a particle board door with a veneer skin. And one of the differences, and one way you can tell, is the actual skin itself, if it's veneer, is going to run very, very straight. Unlike the tree, that when you cut it out has the circles, the real true actual door is going to show that wave right there in the panel.
That's true, Lonnie. With the natural solid core, you get a lot of the grain that just runs its natural course versus the veneer, which is more vertical.
Very beautiful. Take your choice.
When selecting your floor plan for your home, thinking about the door orientation, the sizes, the placement of your doors is very important. So we're going to talk about a few of those key components.
Kayla, one of the first things to consider is the actual way the door is going to swing into a room, whether it's a left-hand swing or a right-hand swing, kind of like the ones behind us. You also want to make sure that doesn't block anything important in that room, like maybe an outlet or a wall switch.
The proportion of a door and sizing is very important. So when we're getting into the homes with taller ceilings, you might want to think about taller doors. What's behind us and what's typically standard is a 6'8" tall, but a lot of times with 9 and 10 foot ceilings, you might be able to do an 8 foot tall door, which is going to really stand to the proportion of the room.
Yeah, sometimes the size of the room will dictate that. Also the importance of a room. Sometimes on a focal point in the house, you'll want a double door entry versus a single door.
Absolutely, or a 3 foot door for more accessibility, or depending on high traffic areas would be important too.
A lot of times in public buildings, Kayla, we see the doors that they'll swing out, and that's for a fire code. If there's an emergency, you need people to exit quickly. But typically in the home, you want one continuous, really graceful motion as you enter a room. So you want those doors to kind of swing in like we have behind us.
Just like this. I think this is a great way to orient.
Hey girls, speaking of doors, could we use some of these finishes on our interior doors?
We
What do you think?
could.
Look at these colors.
I think it's a great idea.
Thank you, thank you.
I think that's his first good idea.
You know what? Those are really good. Well, hopefully the audience found this fun today. We sure did. Would you close for us, JR?
Absolutely. As always, guys, we want to thank you for spending part of your day with us. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about who we are, what we do, and why we do what we do so well, please just pick up the phone, give us a call, visit the website below. Even better yet, come in our front door. We'd love to greet you and show you how to incorporate some of these doors in your new custom home.
Okay, guys, we got to start remodeling that half a house. We left it in a mess. Okay, let's everybody
right.
get your toolbox.
Okay.
I've picked everything out already. but-
These doors are out. Come on, Tyler.
Ready, guys? And action.
No, you are.
I'm at the very beginning? Oh, I thought you were saying something, and then I said it.
Usually we say action, something
Crickets
happens.
and
Don't
crickets.
feel the product.
You can change the whole style of your house just with doors.
I totally agree.
Yep.
That's you.
Hey, I've got to go. Seriously? Me after them?
Yeah.
What, right?